Welcome back to the Knight Gambit TV. Today, we are diving deep into an absolute roller coaster of a game from round 5 of the 14th Norway Chess 2026. We have a battle of the Indian prodigies, Rameshbabu Praggnanandhaa playing white against the newly crowned World Championship challenger, Dommaraju Gukesh, playing black. This game is a fascinating study of tension, structural locking, a brilliant piece sacrifice, and mutual time trouble blunders that turned a winning position into a tactical disaster. Grab your coffee, set up your board, and let's break down this masterpiece move by move. Phase 1. The opening and structural missteps. 1d4. Pragg opens with his trusted queen's pawn game. It's solid, strategic, and sets the stage for a long positional battle. 2. Knight f6. Gukesh replies with the standard Indian defense, keeping his options open and controlling the critical e4 square. 3. c4. White stakes a broader claim in the center, fighting for space and preparing to develop the queen's knight behind the c-pawn. 3. e6. Black opens lines for the dark-squared bishop, hinting at either a Nimzo-Indian or a queen's gambit decline structure. 4. Knight f3. Pragg opts for the anti-Nimzo-Indian line, avoiding the pinning ideas of bb4 for a moment and developing naturally. 4. d5. Gukesh transposes into the queen's gambit declined, challenging white's central footprint directly. 5. Knight c3. White develops naturally, piling pressure onto the d5 pawn. 5. Bishop b4. Gukesh enters the Ragozin Defense, ECOD 38. It's a highly dynamic variation where black pins the knight on c3, aiming for active piece play rather than passive defense. 6. Queen a4 check. Here is our first major talking point. Pragg goes for an early queen check to break the pin. While it looks aggressive, it's premature. The computer prefers the simple e3, solidifying the center. By bringing the queen out so early, Pragg risks losing tempos later. 6. Knight c6. Gukesh responds perfectly. He blocks the check while developing his knight to an active square. He is completely fine here. 7. Queen c2. Pragg realizes his queen isn't well placed on a4 and retreats her right back to c2. This is effectively a lost tempo. In elite chess, moving the same piece twice in the opening without a clear tactical reward is a massive concession. Again, e3 was necessary. 7. Bishop d6. Gukesh returns the favor with a strange choice. Moving the bishop away from its active pinning post on b4 to the passive d6 square gives away black's opening advantage. The engine wanted Gukesh to capture on c4, dxc4, opening up the center to exploit white's delayed development. 8. Bishop g5. Pragg pins the f6 knight, but the engine is still screaming for e3 to fix the center. The opening has turned incredibly murky as both players reject normal developmental paths. 8. h6. Gukesh immediately puts the question to the bishop. Are you capturing or are you retreating? 9. Bishop takes f6. Pragg decides to part with his bishop pair. This damages black's pawn structure if he takes with the g-pawn, but Gukesh has other plans. 9. Queen takes f6. Gukesh captures with the queen. The downside for black is that the d5 pawn is now under immense pressure. 10. e3. Finally, Pragg plays the move he should have played 4 moves ago, reinforcing the center and preparing kingside development. 10 though. Gukesh castles into safety, but it's a bit careless. The engine preferred nb4, driving the white queen away and gaining active counterplay. Castling allows Pragg to shut down the queen side. Phase 2. Locking the board and strategic maneuvers. 11. c5. Pragg seizes his opportunity. He kicks the black bishop and locks the queenside structure, gaining a massive space advantage. 11. Bishop e7. The bishop is forced to retreat to a defensive posture. Black's position is starting to feel a bit cramped. 12. Bishop b5. Pragg continues his positional masterclass, pinning the c6 knight and threatening to damage black's queenside pawns. 12. Bishop d7. Gukesh breaks the pin, but this bishop belongs on e8 to support the kingside or f7 later. Knight b8, resetting the knight to reroute it, was a better defensive try. 13. Castle. Pragg completes his development. White stands clearly better here due to superior space and a clearer middle game plan. 13. Rook fd8. Gukesh places his rook on the semi-open file, anticipating central tension. 14. H3. A quiet, prophylactic move by Pragg to create a loft for his king and prevent any future back rank or tactical surprises. 14. G6. Gukesh creates a hook on the king's side. This weakening move wasn't necessary. B8 was still the cleanest way to untangle his pieces. 15. A3. Pragg wants to expand with B4, but the immediate bishop takes C6 followed by trading off black's only active minor piece was structurally cleaner. 15. A6. Gukesh forces the trade himself. 16. Bishop takes C6. Pragg captures, eliminating the knight. 16. Bishop takes C6. Gukesh takes back with the bishop. Black now has the bishop pair, but because the position is heavily locked, those bishops don't have open diagonals to run rampant. 17. Knight E5. A beautiful positional square for the white knight. It sits like a monster on E5, eyeing the C6 bishop and restricting black's activity. 17. Bishop E8. The bishop is forced to retreat to safety. Gukesh's pieces are completely stuck on the back rank. 18. F4. Pragg anchors his knight on E5 and prepares a potential kingside pawn storm. 18. B6. Gukesh tries to break out. He wants to chip away at white's C5 pawn chain. 19. B4. Pragg says, no way. He reinforces his pawn chain, maintaining his space cushion. 19. A5. Gukesh opens up a second front on the A file to look for counterplay. 20. Rook FB1. Pragg brings his rook over to defend the queen side and contest the B file. 20. Queen G7. Gukesh hides his queen, preparing a future F6 breakout to kick the white knight. 21. Queen E2. A slight misstep by Pragg. He needed to take on B6, C takes B6, to clear up the files on his own terms. 21. Rook DB8. Gukesh misses his chance to strike in the center with G5, which would break open Pragg's kingside. Instead, he shifts a rook passively. 22. E4. Pragg strikes in the center, but this is premature. It opens lines that Gukesh can actually use. C6 was an incredible positional squeeze that would choke black out completely. 22. D takes E4. Gukesh gladly liquidates the central tension. 23. Knight takes E4. Pragg recaptures with the knight, keeping his pieces active. 23. Rook A7. Gukesh tries to double his rooks on the A file, but it's a bit clumsy. Shifting the pawns first with Ax4 was cleaner. 24. Queen E3. Pragg centralizes his queen, defending his pieces and watching the entire board. 24. Queen F8. Gukesh moves his queen back yet again. He is shuffling his pieces, struggling to find a constructive plan under the space crunch. 25. King H2. Pragg plays a slow king move. In these hyper-sharp positions, every tempo counts. The engine wanted an aggressive G4 to start the kingside assault. 25. King H7. Gukesh follows suit with a slow king move of his own. Both players are starting to feel the pressure of the clock here in Oslo. 26. B5. Pragg locks down the queen side permanently. Look at that C6 square. It is a glaring weakness in black's camp. 26. A4. Gukesh pushes his pawn, but it becomes isolated and difficult to defend. 27. C6. Pragg seals the deal on the queen side. Black's light-squared bishop on E8 is now a tall pawn, completely trapped behind its own army. 27. Rook D8. Gukesh targets the D4 pawn, looking for any shred of active play. 28. Rook D1. Pragg effortlessly defends it. 28. F6. Gukesh finally plays the breakout move, forcing Pragg's monster knight to move. 29. Knight C4. The knight retreats, but it still maintains a very healthy defensive and offensive posture. 29. Bishop F7. Gukesh repositions his bishop, hoping to eye the D5 square. 30. Queen E2. Pragg resets his queen to avoid any future X-ray tactics from the black bishop. 30. Queen G8. Gukesh is still struggling to find an active square for his queen. 31. Rook AC1. Pragg misses a chance to reroute his knight to C3 to devour the weak A4 pawn. 31. Rook AA8. Gukesh moves his rook back. The position has become a psychological maneuvering war. 32. Rook D2. Pragg prepares to double his rooks on the d-file. 32 rook e8. Gukesh moves his rook to the e-file. Both players are low on time, making non-committal moves. 33 knight c3. Pragg finally goes after the a4 pawn, but he misses a deeper central break with queen d3. 33 e5. Gukesh strikes. He tries to break open the position while Pragg's knight is away on c3. Strategically, this is what black wants, but tactically, it runs into a brick wall. Phase 3. The explosive sacrifice and chaos. 34 d5. Beautifully played by Pragg. He refuses to open the e-file and instead creates a monstrous passed pawn on d5. 34 e takes f4. Gukesh wins a pawn, but opens up his own king to severe threats. 35 queen f2. The queen retreats but eyes the f4 pawn and keeps the kingside under control. 35 g5. Gukesh tries to hold on to his extra pawn, but this completely shatters his kingside shelter. Now, look at the board. Pragg has a forced tactical sequence here that is absolutely breathtaking. Find a seat, because this next move is a beauty. 36 knight takes b6. Boom. Pragg unleashes a brilliant knight sacrifice. He shatters Gukesh's queenside pawn structure to unleash his connected passed pawns. 36 c takes b6. Gukesh accepts the sacrifice, but this is losing. He had to play g4 to create counter threats against white's king. Now, white's pawns are unstoppable. 37 d6. Look at those pawns on c6 and d6. They are like two absolute bulldozers marching down the board. 37 bishop f8. Gukesh tries to bring his bishop back to blockade the pawns. Pragg scoops up a pawn. The queen and the passed pawns are in perfect harmony. 38 g4. Gukesh desperately launches a counterattack against the white king. It's his only chance. Phase 4. Time trouble and absolute heartbreak. 39 h takes g4. Oh no. An absolute blunder by Pragg under severe time pressure. He captures the pawn, which completely exposes his own king. If he had played d7, advancing the pawn, the game would have been over in a few moves. 39 queen takes g4. Gukesh recaptures. Suddenly, black's queen is active, and the white king is feeling lonely. 40 queen f2. Another massive mistake from Pragg. The evaluation bar completely flips. He needed to play kg1 to hide his king. Now, black is winning. 40 rook e3. Unbelievable drama. Gukesh blunders right back. In mutual time trouble, he misses the winning line, re6, which blockades the pawns and wins the game. He plays rook e3, giving Pragg a lifeline. 41 rook d4. The mistakes keep compounding. Pragg misses king g1 yet again. The pressure of Norway chess is on full display. 41 queen h5 check. Gukesh checks the king, forcing it out into the open. 42 king g1. The king finally moves to the corner, but it's too late. 42 queen e5. Gukesh centralizes his queen with a double attack on the d4 rook and the c7 square. 43 queen d2. Pragg defends his rook and tries to hold his passed pawns together. 43 f3. Gukesh drives a wedge into white's kingside. The threat of checkmate is looming. 44 king f2. The fatal blunder. Pragg steps his king forward right into a deadly tactical net. He had to play c7 to force black onto the defensive. Now, Gukesh has a forced mate. 44 bishop takes d6. A brilliant quiet move by Gukesh. He sacrifices the e3 rook, but it opens up the devastating diagonal for his dark squared bishop. 45 rook takes d6. Pragg captures the rook, but it's a desperation move. 45 rook g8. Brilliant. Gukesh brings his final piece into the attack, threatening massive destruction on g2. 46 g takes f3. Pragg takes the pawn, but there is no saving the king. 46 rook takes f3 check. An elegant rook sacrifice to force the king into the open. 47 king takes f3. Pragg is forced to take. 47 bishop h5 check. The bishop joins the party with a devastating check. 48 king f2. The white king runs back to safety, but it's an illusion. 48 queen g3 check. And with this final, crushing queen check, Pragg resigned. Why did he resign? Because after 49 King f1, Gukesh has 49. Huge e1 checkmate. An absolute textbook checkmate. What a phenomenal, chaotic game of chess. Pragg played a brilliant positional squeeze, executed a gorgeous knight sacrifice on b6, but the extreme time pressure allowed Gukesh to mount a miraculous kingside counterattack to take the full point. Thank you for tuning into the Knight Gambit TV. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more deep dive chess analysis. Let me know in the comments below, at what point do you think Pragg lost control? See you in the next video.